I don't like arguments about whether class is more important than race in politics or the other way around, because to me, they're inseparable. Martin Luther King once said, "What good is having the right to sit at a lunch counter if you can't afford to buy a hamburger?" And Vladimir Lenin once said, "Black Americans were the last to be freed from slavery, and they still bear, more than anyone else, the cruel marks of slavery, even in advanced countries. For capitalism has no room for anything other than legal emancipation, and even in the latter, it curtails in every possible way." So that's why I had an issue with this post. A lot of people like to dismiss racism as insubstantial to material realities, but we're watching a nation burn trillions of dollars in wealth to entrench a racial system of domination. And this is being done voluntarily. Whenever we ask whether people are voting against their self-interest, we have to remember that they get to define what's in their own interest, and a solid majority decided immiseration was preferable to equality. The problem with what they said here is that the racial system of domination is the foundation for the economic or material system of domination. The idea that Trump, Musk, and the other tech billionaires are screwing themselves over by putting racial animus ahead of their own material gain is an incomplete analysis. Predictably, liberals, after scoffing at the left for the last 35 years as we tried to explain the effects of the shock doctrine, suddenly give a shit now that it's happening to them. If you don't know, the shock doctrine is a term popularized by Naomi Klein in her book, The Shock Doctrine. It describes the ways in which the U.S. destabilizes economies around the world for the benefit of multinational corporations. She characterizes the strategies the U.S. military and/or CIA use in these cases as disaster capitalism, or shock therapy. And Nixon once referred to it as making the economy scream when he overthrew Salvador Allende in Chile. The U.S. has done this to many countries throughout South America, Asia, Africa, along with many former Soviet states. And now the old imperial boomerang has come back to bite us in the ass. The burning of trillions of dollars in wealth will hurt the many people likely to be laid off, 401k holders, and even richer shareholders who thought they were part of the club.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
But the real economic elite will be fine. While I do think Trump and Musk are morons, and probably didn't predict all the negative effects of sweeping tariffs and dismantling the administrative state, in all likelihood, there is a plan here. The plan is the same one we've carried out in the other countries where we've done the shock doctrine. Dismantle state services, crash the economy, and let oligarchs buy up the now cheap, deflated state assets and worthless private capital so they can overcharge for them and profit. And while, sure, I guess people can define for themselves what's in their best interest, that doesn't mean they can't be wrong about it. One of the main ways in which racism perpetuates is that capitalists and corporate media strategically emphasize existing racial tensions to keep people scared enough to vote against their interests, because voting in such a way serves the interests of capital. Bernie Sanders tried to tell people they could vote in their interest and that they deserved more and could have it, but the Democratic Party decided that it was worth losing to Trump to defeat Bernie. This is why we'll never be liberated without socialist revolution. I've also never loved the voting against their interests argument, because to some extent, all voters do that in the US, even if Democrats are slightly less against your interests. The problem is, people often don't even know what's in their interest because they're so mixed up by capitalist propaganda. Don't forget that both parties sold NAFTA to Americans as greater economic freedom, just as Trump is telling them they'll be liberated when he tears it up with no alternative in place. People haven't chosen immiseration over equality. They've chosen promise after promise of prosperity and never received it, to the point that they'll believe when someone tells them equality is the problem. You won't convince them equality is good if you also tell them that prosperity is impossible. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and help us out on Patreon if you can. Bye now.